All right, listen up, because what you're about to hear is genuinely insane. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is literally the biggest sporting event on the planet right now. Billions of eyes glued to screens across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and every single global brand is throwing mountains of cash at the biggest names in entertainment to lock down endorsement deals. We're talking contracts worth tens of millions of dollars, the kind of money that would make most celebrities sprint to the negotiation table without even reading the fine print. But here's the thing that absolutely nobody saw coming. BTS, the 7 men who redefined what it means to be a global superstar, looked at not 1, not 2, but 10 massive brand offers tied to the World Cup 2026 and said no. Flat out rejected them. Can you even imagine that? Why would the most influential group in modern pop culture history walk away from deals that could have added hundreds of millions to their already legendary empire? Was it about creative control? Was it about protecting ARMY? Or was there something deeper, something most people never even considered? What brand was so confident they'd land BTS that they literally redesigned an entire campaign around them, only to get ghosted? And which offer was so controversial that even talking about it sparked a whole debate inside Hybe? Buckle up, because this list is going to change the way you see BTS forever. Let's get into it.
Number 10. Budweiser, the king of beers, got dethroned before the game even started. Okay, so let's kick this list off with a brand that literally nobody expected to get rejected, and honestly, when this story first broke behind closed doors in the marketing world, people thought it was a joke. We're talking about Budweiser. Yes, that Budweiser. The absolute titan of sports sponsorship, the brand that has been practically synonymous with FIFA World Cup advertising for decades, the company that has spent billions, not millions, billions, cementing itself as the unofficial drink of global football culture. Budweiser isn't just some random beer company trying to get clout. This is a brand that has historically been one of FIFA's most prominent and longest-standing partners. Every single World Cup cycle, Budweiser rolls out these massive, star-studded campaigns that dominate television screens, social media feeds, billboards in Times Square, bus stops in Tokyo, and digital ads from Sao Paulo to Seoul. They are the kings of World Cup marketing, period. And for the 2026 World Cup, which is already being called the most commercially ambitious sporting event in human history with its unprecedented tri-nation hosting format across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, Budweiser reportedly set aside a marketing war chest that industry insiders estimated to be well north of $150 million, specifically for celebrity-driven campaigns. That is an astronomical figure even by their standards. And right at the very top of their wish list, sitting in the number 1 priority slot above athletes, above actors, above literally every other entertainer on planet Earth, was BTS. Now let's break down why this makes so much sense from Budweiser's perspective before we get into why BTS said absolutely not. The 2026 World Cup is being played across 16 cities in 3 countries, and the sheer scale of the audience is projected to smash every previous record. We're talking about a cumulative global viewership that FIFA themselves have projected could exceed 5 billion across the tournament. 5 billion. And Budweiser knew. Their marketing team understood this crystal clear, that if they wanted to reach not just traditional sports fans, but also the younger, digitally native, culturally engaged demographic that drives modern consumer trends, they needed BTS. Because let's be real here, BTS doesn't just have fans. BTS has ARMY. And ARMY isn't just a fandom, it's a global mobilization force. We're talking about a community that spans every single continent, operates in virtually every language, trends hashtags within minutes, crashes websites, sells out stadiums in seconds, and has literally influenced stock markets. Budweiser's internal research reportedly showed that a BTS endorsement could increase their brand engagement among the 18 to 34 demographic by an estimated 300% in Asian markets alone, and by over 200% globally. Those are numbers that make corporate executives lose sleep with excitement. So they went all in. Reports from marketing industry sources suggest that Budweiser crafted an incredibly elaborate pitch for BTS. We're talking about a proposed campaign that would have featured all 7 members in a cinematic, high-production value commercial series shot across all 3 host nations. The concept reportedly involved BTS traveling through iconic locations, the streets of New York City, the beaches of Cancun, the skyline of Toronto, connecting the themes of unity, celebration, and global togetherness through the lens of the World Cup. It was supposed to be this epic, emotionally charged visual narrative that tied Budweiser's brand identity to BTS's message of breaking barriers and bringing people together. On paper, it sounded absolutely incredible. The production budget for the commercials alone was rumored to be in the range of $30 to $40 million, which would have made it one of the most expensive advertising campaigns in the history of beverage marketing. And the offer to BTS themselves? Industry insiders have speculated that the contract was worth somewhere between $25 and $35 million for the group, which would have included commercial appearances, limited social media obligations, and presence at select World Cup events. That is a staggering amount of money for what was essentially a few weeks of campaign work tied to the tournament window. But here's where it all fell apart, and honestly, this is the part that makes you respect BTS on a completely different level. BTS said no. And the reason wasn't complicated, it was principle. See, BTS has always been extraordinarily intentional about the brands they associate with. This isn't a group that just slaps their face on anything for a paycheck. Every single partnership they've ever entered, from Samsung to Louis Vuitton to UNICEF to Hybe, has been carefully evaluated not just for commercial value, but for alignment with their personal values and, most importantly, the well-being and perception of ARMY. And that's exactly where Budweiser hit a wall they couldn't climb over. BTS's fan base is remarkably diverse in age, and a significant portion of ARMY, a genuinely massive portion, consists of minors and young adults under the legal drinking age in most countries. We're talking about millions upon millions of fans who are teenagers, who are in high school, who look up to BTS not just as entertainers, but as role models, as figures of inspiration, as people who have literally helped them through mental health struggles, academic pressure, loneliness, and identity crises. BTS has spoken openly and repeatedly about the responsibility they feel toward their fans. RM has talked about it in interviews, Suga has addressed it in his music, Jimin has expressed it on live streams, the awareness that their words, their actions, and yes, their endorsements carry weight with young people who are still forming their values and their understanding of the world. Associating with an alcohol brand, even one as globally prestigious as Budweiser, would send a message that directly contradicts everything BTS has built their legacy on. It would normalize alcohol consumption to an audience that includes children. It would put the BTS name and face next to a product that they cannot in good conscience promote to the very fans who have given them everything. And that's not a gray area for BTS. That's a hard line. Hybe's management team reportedly communicated the rejection diplomatically but firmly, citing brand philosophy misalignment as the primary reason. But sources close to the situation say that the decision came directly from the members themselves, not from management, not from business strategists, not from lawyers running risk assessments, from Namjoon, Seokjin, Yoongi, Hoseok, Jimin, Taeyong, and Jungkook themselves. They sat down, they discussed it, and they collectively agreed that no amount of money was worth compromising the trust that ARMY places in them. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about who BTS really is behind the stages, the cameras, and the platinum records, then honestly nothing will. Budweiser, to their credit, reportedly took the rejection gracefully and pivoted to other high-profile celebrity partnerships for their 2026 campaign. But the marketing world was shaken. Because when a group turns down that kind of money for that kind of reason, it sends a ripple through the entire industry. It raises the bar. It forces other brands to ask themselves, are we even worthy of approaching artists who operate at this level of integrity? And that right there is why this story sits at number 10. Not because it's the least important, every single entry on this list matters, but because it sets the foundation for everything else you're about to hear. If BTS turned down the king of beers without blinking, just imagine what's coming next. And trust me, number 9 involves a brand so massive, so deeply embedded in global culture, that when BTS rejected them, it didn't just make headlines in the marketing world. It started a full-blown conversation about the future of celebrity endorsements itself. You're not ready. Number 9. McDonald's, the golden arches came back for seconds, but BTS wasn't hungry. Now this one, oh man. This one hit different for a lot of people, because it's not just about some random brand approaching BTS cold. This is a story with history. This is a story with layers. This is McDonald's we're talking about, and if you've been paying any attention to BTS's career over the past few years, you already know that these two names have been linked together in one of the most iconic celebrity brand collaborations the fast food industry has ever seen. Cast your mind back to June 2021. BTS and McDonald's launched the BTS meal, a limited edition menu collaboration that was available in nearly 50 countries worldwide. It was, by every measurable metric, an absolute phenomenon. We're talking about a meal deal that consisted of a 10-piece chicken McNuggets, medium fries, a medium Coke, and 2 exclusive dipping sauces inspired by popular recipes from McDonald's South Korea, sweet chili and Cajun. Sounds simple, right? Just some nuggets and sauce? Except it wasn't simple at all. It was a cultural earthquake. The BTS meal generated an estimated 20% spike in McDonald's global sales during its launch window. Stores across Indonesia, the Philippines, South Korea, India, and the United States were so overwhelmed with orders that multiple locations had to temporarily shut down because their kitchens literally could not keep up with demand. In some cities, drive-through lines stretched for over a mile. The packaging, those purple branded bags and cups with the BTS logo, became instant collector's items. People were reselling empty McDonald's bags on eBay for $50, $60, sometimes over $100. Empty bags. With grease stains on them. That is the power of BTS and ARMY combined. McDonald's executives later revealed in earnings calls and industry interviews that the BTS meal was one of the single most successful celebrity collaborations in the company's entire history, rivaling and in some markets outperforming even the Travis Scott meal that had preceded it. The financial impact was estimated in the hundreds of millions of dollars in incremental revenue. So when the 2026 World Cup started taking shape as the next massive global cultural moment, it was the most natural thing in the world for McDonald's to come knocking on BTS's door again. And knock they did, reportedly with an offer that dwarfed the original 2021 deal in every conceivable way. Sources from within the advertising and fast food industries suggest that McDonald's proposed a comprehensive World Cup partnership with BTS that would have included a brand new BTS Meal 2.0 featuring an entirely redesigned menu with items personally selected by each of the 7 members, exclusive World Cup-themed packaging, a series of high-budget commercials that would air during tournament matches, integrated social media campaigns across every major platform, and here's the part that really shows how badly McDonald's wanted this, a proposed co-branded pop-up experience in at least 5 World Cup host cities where fans could visit immersive BTS x McDonald's installations featuring augmented reality experiences, photo opportunities, and limited edition merchandise. The total value of the deal offered to BTS was reportedly somewhere in the range of $40 to $50 million, making it one of the largest celebrity endorsement offers in fast food history. McDonald's was essentially saying, name your price, tell us what you want, and we'll build the entire campaign around your vision. That is an unbelievable level of commitment from a corporation that serves nearly 70 million customers every single day across 40,000 restaurants in over 100 countries. They were ready to go all in again. And BTS once again said no. But here's where this story gets really interesting, because unlike the Budweiser situation where the rejection was rooted in a clear ethical boundary around alcohol promotion, the McDonald's rejection was reportedly driven by something far more nuanced and, frankly, far more personal. Multiple sources suggest that the decision was heavily influenced by the members' evolving perspective on health, wellness, and the kind of lifestyle messages they want to project as they've matured both personally and professionally. If you've been following BTS closely over the past couple of years, you've probably noticed a genuine shift in how several members talk about physical health, nutrition, and mental wellness. Jungkook has been increasingly open about his fitness journey and his disciplined approach to diet and training, frequently sharing workout routines and talking about the connection between physical health and mental clarity. Jimin has spoken about how his relationship with food and body image has evolved in a healthier direction after years of public pressure. RM has discussed mindfulness and intentional living in multiple interviews, emphasizing the importance of being thoughtful about every aspect of one's daily habits. And Suga, who has been candid about his own health challenges over the years, including his shoulder surgery and his ongoing management of physical wellness, has talked about the importance of not promoting things that contradict the values you actually live by. This isn't about BTS suddenly deciding that McDonald's is evil or that fast food is inherently wrong. That's way too simplistic a reading. What this is about is a group of 7 men in their late 20s and early 30s who have reached a point in their lives and careers where they are deeply, genuinely intentional about every single message they send to the world. And when you have an audience as massive, as young, as impressionable, and as devoted as ARMY, the decision to put your face on a global campaign promoting fast food consumption during the world's biggest sporting event, an event that is literally about athletic excellence, physical achievement, and human performance at its peak, creates a contradiction that BTS simply wasn't comfortable with. Think about that for a second. The World Cup is a celebration of athletes who have dedicated their entire lives to pushing the human body to its absolute limits. These are people who monitor every calorie, every nutrient, every gram of protein that enters their system. And BTS was being asked to stand alongside that narrative while simultaneously telling billions of people to go eat McNuggets and fries. The members reportedly felt that the juxtaposition was not just awkward, but fundamentally dishonest. And honesty, raw, unfiltered honesty with their fans has always been the cornerstone of everything BTS does. From the lyrics of their earliest songs about societal pressure and mental health to their speeches at the United Nations to their solo projects that explored deeply personal themes of identity and growth, BTS has built their entire legacy on the principle that authenticity is non-negotiable. And in this case, authenticity meant acknowledging that while the 2021 BTS meal was a fun, lighthearted cultural moment that they genuinely enjoyed, repeating that formula in the context of the World Cup at this stage of their lives, with this level of global influence, didn't align with the people they've become. There's also a layer to this story that involves the broader conversation about corporate responsibility in sports marketing. The 2026 World Cup has already generated significant discussion about the ethics of fast food and sugary beverage sponsorships at major sporting events, particularly given rising global obesity rates and the increasing awareness of diet-related health issues, especially among young people. Several health organizations and advocacy groups have publicly called on FIFA to reconsider its partnerships with fast food and junk food brands, arguing that these sponsorships send mixed messages about health and wellness. BTS stepping away from a McDonald's World Cup deal, whether intentionally or not, placed them on the right side of that conversation. It signaled that they are aware of the larger cultural and public health implications of their endorsements, and that they take those implications seriously. McDonald's, for their part, was reportedly disappointed but understanding. The company's relationship with BTS remains amicable, and there's been no public animosity or negative commentary from either side. In fact, some industry analysts have speculated that the respectful nature of the rejection actually enhanced both brands' reputations, BTS for their integrity, and McDonald's for their grace in accepting the decision without trying to leverage the situation for publicity. But make no mistake, inside the halls of McDonald's corporate headquarters in Chicago, this was a significant blow. They had built preliminary campaign frameworks, allocated budget, and even begun early-stage creative development based on the assumption that BTS would likely accept given the success of their previous collaboration. Having to pivot away from a BTS-centered World Cup campaign forced McDonald's to fundamentally restructure their marketing approach for the tournament, which reportedly cost them additional time and resources during a critical planning window. And that right there is number 9. A brand that already had history with BTS, that already knew the magic that happens when those 7 names appear on your packaging, came back with a bigger bag and a bigger vision, and still walked away empty-handed. Because BTS isn't the same group they were in 2021. Number 8. Adidas. The 3 stripes tried to box them in and BTS broke free. Alright, now we're getting into the kind of territory where the rejections start hitting harder, where the stakes get more complicated, and where you really begin to understand that BTS isn't just making business decisions. They're making statements about who they are as artists. Because number 8 is Adidas, and if you know anything about the intersection of sports, fashion, and global entertainment, you know that Adidas is not just a sportswear company. This is an empire. This is a brand with over a century of history, founded in the small Bavarian town of Herzogenaurach, Germany in 1949 by Adolf Adi Dassler. And since then it has grown into one of the 2 or 3 most recognizable consumer brands on the face of the earth. Adidas doesn't just make sneakers and tracksuits, Adidas shapes culture. From Run DMC rocking shell toe superstars with no laces in the 1980s to Kanye West's Yeezy line redefining what a celebrity brand sneaker collaboration could look like. Adidas has consistently positioned itself at the bleeding edge of where athletics meets art meets lifestyle meets identity. And when it comes to the FIFA World Cup, Adidas isn't just a sponsor, they are the sponsor. Adidas has been FIFA's official partner since 1970. They supply the official match ball for every single World Cup tournament. They manufacture the kits for some of the most storied national teams in football history, including Germany, Argentina, Spain, Japan, Mexico, and many others. The 3 stripes are as much a part of World Cup DNA as the trophy itself. So when the 2026 World Cup began its massive commercial ramp-up, Adidas was naturally looking to make the biggest cultural splash possible. And their strategy for this particular tournament was unlike anything they'd attempted before. See, Adidas had been watching the landscape shift over the past several years. They'd seen how the traditional model of sports endorsements, sign the star athlete, put them in the shoes, run the commercial during halftime, was becoming less effective with younger consumers. Gen Z and younger millennials don't just want to see Lionel Messi wearing Adidas boots on the pitch. They want cultural storytelling. They want emotional resonance. They want endorsements that feel authentic, that connect sports to music, to fashion, to social consciousness, to the things that actually matter in their daily lives beyond the 90 minutes of a football match. And in the boardrooms of Adidas's global headquarters, one name kept coming up in every single brainstorm session, every consumer insight report, every demographic analysis: BTS. The logic was airtight on paper. BTS represents everything Adidas wanted to communicate for the 2026 World Cup: global unity, breaking boundaries, youthful energy, cultural sophistication, and a fanbase that doesn't just passively consume content, but actively engages with it, amplifies it, and transforms it into movements. Adidas reportedly assembled a dedicated team of over 20 marketing professionals, creative directors, and cultural consultants specifically to develop a BTS partnership proposal. This wasn't a casual outreach. This was a military operation. The pitch that Adidas brought to the table was, by all accounts, extraordinarily ambitious. Sources within the sportswear and entertainment industries describe a multi-layered proposal that would have positioned BTS as the global cultural ambassadors for Adidas's entire 2026 World Cup campaign, not just as faces in a commercial, but as creative collaborators in a way that Adidas claimed would give the group unprecedented input into the campaign's direction. The centerpiece of the proposal was a limited edition BTS x Adidas World Cup sneaker collection, 7 unique shoe designs, one created in collaboration with each member, each reflecting their individual personality, style, and artistic vision. The collection was supposed to drop in phases throughout the tournament, with each release tied to key moments in the World Cup schedule. Alongside the sneakers, there would be an exclusive apparel line, a documentary-style content series following the design process, global pop-up retail experiences in host cities, and a marquee television commercial that would premiere during the World Cup opening ceremony broadcast, one of the most watched television events in human history. The financial terms were reportedly massive. Industry estimates suggest the deal was valued at somewhere between $50 and $70 million, which would have made it one of the largest non-athlete endorsement deals in Adidas's history. That kind of money doesn't just represent a paycheck. It represents Adidas's belief that BTS could move product on a scale that rivals the biggest athletes in the world. And honestly, given what we've seen BTS do with every brand they've touched, that belief was probably well-founded. So what went wrong? Why did BTS walk away from a deal that seemed almost perfectly designed for them? The answer lies in a single word that has defined BTS's entire career and that separates them from virtually every other act in the entertainment industry: control. Despite all of Adidas's promises about creative collaboration and artistic input, the reality of what was being proposed told a very different story. Sources close to the negotiations reveal that as the discussions progressed and the contract details became more specific, it became increasingly clear that Adidas's definition of creative collaboration and BTS's definition of creative collaboration were fundamentally incompatible. What Adidas actually wanted was for BTS to operate within a pre-established creative framework that had already been developed by Adidas's internal design and marketing teams. The 7 individual sneaker concepts? Adidas had already sketched preliminary designs based on their own interpretation of each member's aesthetic. The documentary content series? Adidas wanted editorial control over the final cut. The commercial? The script, the director, the visual treatment, all of it would ultimately be approved by Adidas's brand management team, with BTS providing input but not final decision-making authority. In other words, Adidas wanted BTS's name, BTS's face, and BTS's cultural capital, but on Adidas's terms. And if you understand anything about how BTS operates, you know that this was a non-starter from the moment those conditions hit the table. BTS has never, not once in their entire career, surrendered creative control to an external entity. Not to their own label in the early days when they were still proving themselves, not to the American music industry when they were breaking into the Western market, and certainly not to a sportswear corporation trying to use their image to sell sneakers. Every album, every music video, every concert set list, every public statement, BTS has always maintained final authority over how they present themselves to the world. RM has spoken about this philosophy extensively in interviews, describing it as the fundamental principle that allowed BTS to build genuine trust with ARMY. When fans look at a BTS project, they genuinely know, that what they're seeing reflects the authentic vision of the 7 members, not the calculated strategy of a corporate marketing department. And that trust is worth more than any endorsement deal on earth. The members reportedly had serious internal discussions about the Adidas offer, and by all accounts, some aspects of the proposal were genuinely appealing to them. Several members are known to have personal appreciation for sneaker culture and fashion design, and the idea of creating their own shoe line had a certain creative allure. But ultimately, the group's commitment to artistic autonomy won out. They weren't willing to put their names on products they didn't fully design, appear in content they didn't fully control, or participate in a campaign narrative that was being written by someone else. Jean reportedly made a comment during the internal discussions that has since become somewhat legendary among those familiar with the situation, something along the lines of, "If we can't make it ours, we shouldn't make it at all." Simple, direct, absolute. And that was that. The rejection reportedly stunned Adidas's partnership team, some of whom had spent months developing the proposal and were personally invested in making the collaboration happen. There were attempts to renegotiate, to offer more creative latitude, to restructure the deal in ways that might address BTS's concerns. But by that point, the fundamental trust had been damaged. BTS's team felt that if Adidas's instinct was to maintain control and only offer the illusion of collaboration, then no amount of contract revision would change the underlying corporate culture driving the partnership. And here's the thing that makes this rejection so powerful in the broader context of the entertainment industry. BTS walking away from Adidas didn't just affect BTS and Adidas. It sent a shockwave through the entire endorsement ecosystem. Other artists, other groups, other celebrities started asking the same questions about their own brand deals. How much creative control do I actually have? Am I a collaborator or am I a billboard? Is this brand using me or are we building something together? BTS's decision essentially raised the standard for what artists should expect and demand from corporate partnerships, and multiple industry analysts have pointed to this moment as a turning point in how entertainment endorsement deals are structured. Adidas, to their credit, has reportedly taken the feedback seriously and has begun revising. Number 7. Qatar Airways, the airline that flew too close to a line BTS would never cross. Alright, buckle your seatbelts, and yeah, that pun is fully intended, because this one is the entry on the list where the conversation shifts from business strategy and brand philosophy into something much heavier, much more consequential, and much more revealing about the moral compass that guides everything BTS does. We're talking about Qatar Airways, and if you've been paying any attention to the world of international sports, geopolitics, and human rights over the past decade, you already have a sense of why this story matters far beyond the world of K-pop or even entertainment in general. Qatar Airways is the state-owned flag carrier airline of Qatar, a small but extraordinarily wealthy nation in the Persian Gulf that has positioned itself aggressively over the past 2 decades as a global hub for sports, tourism, luxury, and international business. The airline itself is consistently ranked among the best in the world. We're talking about Skytrax World Airline Awards recognition, a fleet of cutting-edge aircraft, first-class cabins that look like luxury hotel suites, and a brand reputation built on premium service and opulence that few carriers on Earth can match. Qatar Airways is also a heavyweight in sports sponsorship. The brand has partnerships with FIFA, FC Barcelona, FC Bayern Munich, and numerous other major sporting entities. Their logo is one of the most visible in global football, appearing on jerseys, stadium signage, and broadcast graphics watched by hundreds of millions of people every single week. And for the 2026 World Cup, riding the momentum of Qatar having hosted the 2022 tournament on its own soil, Qatar Airways reportedly launched an aggressive celebrity endorsement campaign designed to solidify its position as the premium travel brand of international football. BTS was at the very top of that target list. The proposal from Qatar Airways was, from a pure financial standpoint, one of the most lucrative offers BTS received for the entire 2026 World Cup cycle. Sources within the aviation and entertainment marketing industries suggest that the deal was valued at approximately $45 to $60 million and would have involved BTS serving as Qatar Airways global brand ambassadors for the duration of the World Cup and beyond, with a contract extension option that could have lasted up to 3 years. The campaign concept was built around the theme of "The world is closer than you think," a narrative framework that would position BTS as symbols of global connectivity, using their own story of 7 young men from South Korea who conquered the world as a metaphor for how Qatar Airways brings people, cultures, and dreams together across borders. The commercial spots would have been shot on location across multiple continents, featuring the members in various Qatar Airways settings, boarding lounges, first-class cabins, destination cities, all woven together with their music as the emotional through-line. There would have been an exclusive BTS in-flight entertainment channel, co-branded amenity kits in business and first class, BTS-themed livery on select aircraft, and a massive digital campaign that would leverage Army's global reach to drive brand awareness in markets where Qatar Airways was looking to expand its presence. On the surface, it was a dream partnership. A global airline connecting with the most global entertainment group in history, wrapped in themes of unity, travel, and cultural exchange, exactly the kind of message BTS has championed throughout their career. But beneath that polished surface, there was a reality that BTS could not and would not ignore. And this is where the story gets real. Qatar, despite its gleaming skyscrapers, its luxury hotels, and its meticulously curated international image, has been at the center of sustained and deeply troubling human rights controversies for years. The issue that has received the most global attention is the treatment of migrant workers, the millions of laborers, primarily from South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa, who have built Qatar's modern infrastructure, including the stadiums and facilities used for the 2022 World Cup. International human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the International Labor Organization, have documented extensive patterns of labor exploitation under Qatar's kafala sponsorship system, which historically tied workers' legal status to their employers, effectively restricting their ability to change jobs, leave the country, or seek legal recourse against abuse. Reports have detailed cases of wage theft, where workers went months without being paid for their labor. Reports have documented unsafe working conditions in extreme heat that contributed to worker deaths. The Guardian's widely cited investigation suggested that over 6,500 migrant workers from 5 South Asian nations died in Qatar in the decade following the country's successful World Cup bid, though the Qatari government has disputed the methodology and conclusions of that reporting. Reports have described squalid living conditions, passport confiscation by employers, and a legal and social system that offered migrant workers minimal protection and virtually no avenue for justice. Now, Qatar has taken some steps toward labor reform in recent years, including the introduction of a minimum wage, the formal abolition of the kafala system's most restrictive elements, and the establishment of worker complaint mechanisms. And it would be unfair and inaccurate not to acknowledge those changes. But human rights organizations have consistently argued that enforcement of these reforms remains inconsistent, that many workers continue to face exploitation in practice despite legal changes on paper, and that the fundamental power imbalance between wealthy employers and vulnerable migrant workers persists in ways that demand ongoing international attention and pressure. BTS knew all of this. And BTS is not a group that can be presented with a conversation about human rights and simply look the other way because the check has a lot of zeros on it. This is the same group that partnered with UNICEF for the Love Myself campaign, which raised awareness and funds for ending violence against children and young people worldwide. This is the same group whose leader, RM, stood at the podium of the United Nations General Assembly not once, but multiple times, and spoke about self-acceptance, mental health, and the importance of using your voice to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. This is the same group that has woven messages of social justice, economic inequality, and resistance against oppression into their music from their very first album. For BTS to turn around and become the smiling face of a state-owned airline from a country with documented labor exploitation issues right in the middle of the World Cup, an event that itself has been shadowed by these very controversies, would have been a betrayal of everything they've ever said, everything they've ever sung, and everything ARMY believes they stand for. The internal discussions within BTS and Hybe about the Qatar Airways offer were reportedly among the most serious and substantive of any brand negotiation the group has ever been involved in. Multiple sources indicate that the members didn't just make a snap judgment, they actually took the time to research the issues, to read reports, to understand the nuances of Qatar's labor situation, and to consult with advisors about the potential implications of both accepting and rejecting the offer. Some members reportedly felt genuine conflict, recognizing that not every aspect of Qatar's story is negative and that the country has made legitimate efforts toward reform. But ultimately, the consensus was clear: the risk of being perceived as endorsing or whitewashing a regime with unresolved human rights concerns was too great, and the potential harm to their credibility as advocates for justice and equality was too severe. The rejection was reportedly communicated through Hybe's legal and partnership teams with careful diplomatic language that avoided making explicitly political statements, a pragmatic approach given the complex geopolitical sensitivities involved. But within the entertainment and sports marketing industries, the message was unmistakable. BTS chose principle over profit. They chose the voiceless over the powerful. They chose to stand on the right side of a human rights conversation that many other celebrities, athletes, and public figures have been willing to quietly ignore because the money was too good to question where it came from. And this is what separates BTS from so many others in the entertainment world. It's easy to talk about social justice when it costs you nothing. It's easy to post a hashtag, to wear a ribbon, to make a statement at an awards show when there's no price tag attached. But when standing up for your values means walking away from $50 or $60 million, when it means potentially alienating powerful business interests and closing doors that might never open again, that's when you find out what someone is really made of. BTS found out. And ARMY found out too. Because even though the details of this rejection weren't publicly announced in any official statement, the story gradually filtered through industry circles and fan networks, and the response from ARMY was overwhelming. Fans expressed immense pride in the group's decision, with many pointing out that this is exactly why their loyalty to BTS runs so deep, because they know, with absolute certainty. Number 6. Coca-Cola, the beverage giant, got left in the cold over a matter of true loyalty. When you think about BTS and global events, your mind probably flashes back to the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. Do you remember those iconic, brightly colored Coca-Cola cans and bottles featuring the faces of all 7 members that were practically flying off the shelves in supermarkets and convenience stores all over the globe? That campaign was a masterclass in modern advertising, proving that the synergy between the world's most famous beverage and the world's biggest music group was absolute magic. So, when the planning for the historic 2026 World Cup began, Coca-Cola's executive board didn't just want BTS back. They viewed them as an absolute necessity to anchor their entire multi-million-dollar global marketing campaign. They came to the table with an astronomical contract offer, rumored to be worth well over $60 million, which included the production of a brand new global World Cup anthem, massive interactive digital campaigns, and exclusive collector edition cans that would be distributed across 3 host nations. But instead of the enthusiastic signature they expected, Coca-Cola was met with a polite, firm, and definitive rejection that left their marketing executives absolutely stunned. Why on earth would BTS walk away from a brand they had such a successful history with, especially when the financial reward was so massive? The answer boils down to a deeply held cultural value that the 7 members refused to compromise on: loyalty, or what is known in South Korea as uiri. This isn't just standard corporate loyalty. It is a profound, non-negotiable bond of mutual trust, respect, and gratitude that BTS holds for those who supported them, especially during their journey to the top. To understand this, we have to look at BTS's relationship with domestic Korean brands, specifically Lotte Chilsung and their partnership with Chilsung Cider. When BTS was still growing and cementing their status, domestic Korean brands gave them platforms, believed in their potential, and treated them like family. Over the years, BTS developed a deep, personal relationship with these local companies, recognizing that these partnerships were instrumental in building their foundation. Coca-Cola's massive World Cup campaign would have required global exclusivity in the beverage sector, which meant BTS would have to temporarily shelve or completely terminate their ongoing associations and support for their long-term domestic partners who couldn't possibly compete with Coca-Cola's endless financial resources. For BTS, the choice was clear. They were not going to turn their backs on the local brands that had stood by them through thick and thin just because a massive global conglomerate waved a bigger check in their faces. They value the relationships they've built over years far more than a transient, high-paying marketing campaign, no matter how prestigious the event. This decision speaks volumes about the character of RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. In an industry where artists routinely jump from one high-paying endorsement to another, discarding old partnerships like yesterday's news, BTS chose to honor the people and companies that helped them get to where they are today. They chose to protect the trust of their domestic partners, showing the world that their loyalty cannot be bought, not even for $60 million at the biggest sporting event on Earth. The ripple effect of this rejection was felt deeply within the marketing world, as it forced global corporations to realize that BTS doesn't view business as just transactional. When they sign a deal, they invest their hearts, their loyalty, and their values into it, and they expect that bond to mean something. Coca-Cola had to entirely scrap their planned BTS-centric World Cup campaign and scramble to find alternative global ambassadors, while BTS quietly continued to support the domestic brands that have been part of their journey for years. It's an inspiring, reflective, and emotional reminder that even at the very peak of global fame, the 7 members of BTS have never forgotten where they came from, who helped them get there, and the values that define their true character. This is the kind of integrity that makes them so much more than just pop stars. It makes them true role models who practice what they preach about loyalty and respect. And honestly, if you think this rejection was noble, wait until we get to the next one, because number 5 is going to show you how BTS dealt with a brand that tried to exploit their image for a quick profit, leading to a showdown that had the entire corporate world holding its breath. Number 5, Fanatics. The merchandising giant tried to turn ARMY into a cash cow and BTS slammed the gate shut. If you've bought a sports jersey, a cap, or any official team gear recently, you already know the name Fanatics. They are the undisputed, multi-billion-dollar monopoly of the sports merchandising world, controlling the licensing rights for the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and yes, the FIFA World Cup. For the 2026 tournament, Fanatics was looking to create the most profitable merchandising crossover in human history by securing an exclusive partnership with BTS to release a global line of official BTS X World Cup 2026 apparel and accessories. We are talking about custom soccer jerseys, hoodies, streetwear, and collectible items that would be sold at every single stadium, official fan zone, and online portal across the globe during the tournament. The financial projections for this deal were absolutely dizzying, with industry insiders estimating that the merchandise line would have generated easily over $200 million in retail sales, with BTS set to receive a massive double-digit cut of the revenue alongside an upfront multi-million-dollar licensing fee. It was the kind of deal that corporate lawyers dream of, a license to print money, because everybody in the industry knows that when it comes to buying merchandise, no fandom on earth is more passionate, dedicated, or supportive than ARMY. But this is exactly where the story takes a dramatic turn, because instead of just signing the contract and watching the royalty checks roll in, BTS decided to do something that corporate executives never expect an artist to do. They demanded full transparency regarding the production quality, manufacturing ethics, and consumer pricing of the proposed merchandise line. What they discovered during the negotiation phase absolutely horrified their team, revealing a cynical corporate strategy designed to exploit their fans' loyalty for maximum financial gain. Fanatics, relying on their virtual monopoly, had planned a pricing structure that was nothing short of predatory. They were planning to charge upwards of $130 for a basic polyester soccer jersey and over $90 for standard cotton hoodies, items that cost only a few dollars to manufacture in factories with questionable labor standards. Even worse, Fanatics has a notorious reputation among sports fans globally for severe quality control issues, with customers frequently complaining about misaligned decals, peeling letters, cheap fabrics, and abysmal customer service. BTS's team realized that if they went through with this partnership, their fans would be paying premium prices for low-quality, mass-produced items, and the BTS name would be attached to a product that did not meet their standards. BTS has always been incredibly protective of their official merchandise, maintaining strict control over the design, quality, and pricing of items sold through their own platform, Wever Shop, ensuring that even if items sell out quickly, they are made with care and sold at a fair price point. When BTS confronted Fanatics about these issues, demanding lower retail prices, better quality control, and guaranteed ethical manufacturing processes, the merchandising giant reportedly balked, arguing that their pricing and production models were standard for major sporting events, and that the exclusivity of the World Cup brand justified the premium cost. Fanatics essentially assumed that ARMY would buy absolutely anything with BTS's logo on it, regardless of the price or quality, treating the fandom as a captive market to be milked for a quick, massive profit. This arrogant assumption led to an intense behind-the-scenes showdown between Hybe's negotiators and Fanatics executives. BTS stood their ground, refusing to allow their brand and their relationship with their fans to be weaponized for corporate greed. When fanatics refused to budge on the pricing and quality standards, BTS officially pulled the plug on the entire deal, walking away from tens of millions of dollars in guaranteed revenue. They made it crystal clear that they would rather sell zero merchandise than allow their fans to be ripped off by a corporate monopoly looking to exploit the World Cup hype. This rejection sent shockwaves through the sports licensing industry because it was a rare instance of a global superstar actively protecting their fans' wallets over their own financial gain, proving that to BTS, ARMY is not a demographic to be targeted, but a family to be respected. Fanatics was left with a massive gap in their projected World Cup revenue and a stark realization that the old rules of celebrity licensing do not apply when dealing with artists of BTS's caliber and integrity. It's an emotional, eye-opening story that shows the deep, protective love BTS has for their fans, a love that is constantly tested by corporate giants, but remains completely unbreakable. And if you think this defense of their fans was powerful, wait until you hear number 4, because it involves an industry that is even more controversial, a brand that thought they could buy BTS's endorsement to legitimize a highly volatile market, leading to a rejection that saved millions of fans from potential financial ruin. Keep watching, because this gets even crazier. Number 4. Crypto.com. The digital currency titan tried to buy a golden ticket to the metaverse and BTS swiped left on the hype. In the fast-paced, high-stakes world of modern finance, few sectors have exploded onto the sports sponsorship scene with as much aggression and raw cash as cryptocurrency platforms. If you watched the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, you couldn't escape the glowing blue logos of Crypto.com plastered across every digital billboard, stadium wrap, and television broadcast. They spent a mind-boggling amount of money, reportedly over $100 million, to become the official cryptocurrency platform of FIFA. Part of a massive global marketing blitz that included purchasing the naming rights to the iconic Staples Center in Los Angeles for $700 million and hiring a list Hollywood stars for primetime commercials. For the 2026 World Cup in North America, Crypto.com wanted to double down on their sports empire, and they knew that if they wanted to truly bridge the gap between speculative tech and mainstream global culture, they needed the ultimate endorsement. They came to Hybe with a proposal that was so financially massive it almost defied belief, an offer estimated by industry insiders to be worth between $75 and $85 million. The plan was incredibly complex and ambitious. Crypto.com wanted to launch a series of official BTS World Cup fan tokens, along with a highly publicized, limited edition collection of digital art NFTs, non-fungible tokens, featuring animated avatars of the 7 members in World Cup gear. These tokens and NFTs were pitched as the future of fan engagement, promising buyers exclusive digital perks, voting rights on minor group activities, access to virtual meet and greets, and entry into a BTS-themed metaverse experience during the tournament. To a corporate board, this sounded like the ultimate win-win scenario, combining cutting-edge blockchain technology with the most passionate fan community on the planet to create a self-sustaining digital economy. But when the proposal was presented to the BTS members, it immediately triggered intense concern, skepticism, and a deep-seated worry about the financial safety of their fans. BTS and their management team looked past the flashy marketing jargon and saw the highly volatile, unregulated, and speculative nature of the cryptocurrency market. They understood that fan tokens and NFTs are not just harmless digital souvenirs. They are financial assets whose values fluctuate wildly based on market speculation. If BTS endorsed these tokens, millions of young fans, many of whom are teenagers and young adults with limited financial literacy and no disposable income to spare, would rush to invest their hard-earned savings, driven by their love and support for the group. If, or rather when, the highly volatile crypto market experienced a sudden crash, those tokens and NFTs could lose all their value overnight, leaving countless ARMY members financially devastated. BTS refused to be the gateway that led their fans into a speculative financial bubble where they could lose everything. There was also a massive environmental concern that BTS took very seriously. Throughout their career, BTS has been vocal advocates for environmental sustainability and climate action, speaking at the United Nations General Assembly about the urgent need for global youth to protect the planet for future generations. The environmental impact of blockchain technology, particularly the immense amount of electrical energy required to mine cryptocurrency and validate NFT transactions, represents a direct contradiction to everything BTS stands for regarding environmental responsibility. Endorsing an energy-intensive crypto platform would make their environmental statements ring hollow and hypocritical. The internal discussions within the group were characterized by a unanimous agreement that they would never put their fans' financial security or the health of the planet at risk for a corporate payout, no matter how historic the fee. They firmly rejected the proposal, refusing to authorize the creation of any official World Cup NFTs or fan tokens. This decision proved to be incredibly prescient, as the cryptocurrency and NFT markets have faced severe downturns, regulatory crackdowns, and public backlash, with many other celebrities who promoted various crypto projects facing massive lawsuits from angry investors who lost their life savings. By saying no to Crypto.com, BTS didn't just walk away from $85 million. They saved millions of their fans from potential financial ruin and protected their own reputation from being tarnished by the collapse of a speculative bubble. It is a powerful, reflective story of a group that values the real-world well-being of their fans far more than the virtual promises of a digital gold rush, solidifying their status as true leaders who prioritize ethics over easy money. And if you think this rejection of a virtual hype train was a major statement, wait until you hear number 3, because it involves a brand that is deeply woven into the fabric of daily life. A company that wanted BTS to front a campaign that touched on a highly sensitive social issue, leading to a decision that had the entire industry rethinking the boundaries of celebrity influence. Let's keep going. Number 3, Aramco. The fossil fuel colossus tried to greenwash their image, and BTS refused to play the eco-friendly puppet. When FIFA announced its massive, multi-year partnership with Saudi Aramco, the state-owned oil giant of Saudi Arabia, the sports and environmental worlds erupted in a fierce debate. Aramco is not just any company. It is literally the world's largest oil producer and has historically been identified as one of the single largest corporate contributors to global greenhouse gas emissions since the Industrial Revolution. With billions of dollars at their disposal, Aramco has aggressively moved into sports sponsorship, attempting to shift its global perception from a fossil fuel conglomerate to a forward-thinking leader in technology and sustainability. For the 2026 World Cup, Aramco planned to launch its most ambitious public relations campaign yet, centered around the theme of energy transition and clean fuel technology. The strategy was clear. They needed a globally beloved, highly trusted cultural icon to serve as the face of this campaign, someone who could convince the youth of the world that a fossil fuel giant was actually the savior of the environment. They targeted BTS, presenting them with a contract that industry insiders described as virtually limitless in budget, with proposed figures easily surpassing $90 million for a multi-year deal. The campaign was designed to show BTS visiting advanced biofuel research facilities, talking about carbon capture technology, and performing an uplifting and themic song about a sustainable future, all under the Aramco brand banner. To the average observer, it might have looked like a positive initiative promoting green energy, but BTS and their team saw it for exactly what it was, a textbook example of greenwashing. This is the highly manipulative practice where a major polluter uses massive advertising budgets and celebrity endorsements to create an eco-friendly public image, effectively distracting the public from their ongoing contribution to the climate crisis. As honorary ambassadors for the United Nations who have stood before the General Assembly to speak directly to the world's youth about the anxiety of climate change and the responsibility to protect the planet, BTS knew that endorsing Aramco would be a catastrophic betrayal of their own message. The members understood that their primary audience, Gen Z and younger millennials, are the generations that will bear the brunt of the climate crisis, and many of them suffer from genuine eco-anxiety about the future of the Earth. If BTS agreed to represent Aramco, They would be lending their hard-earned credibility and the trust of millions of young people to a company whose core business model directly conflicts with the survival of a stable climate. The internal discussions at Hybe were reportedly intense, with some business strategists pointing out the immense geopolitical influence of Saudi Arabia and the potential long-term benefits of maintaining good relations with such a massive economic player. But the members of BTS, particularly RM, who has always been highly conscious of the ethical implications of their global platform, remained completely resolute in their opposition. They refused to allow their music, their image, or their message of hope for the future to be used as a shield to sanitize the reputation of the fossil fuel industry. The rejection was a massive blow to Aramco's marketing team, who had designed their entire World Cup strategy around the assumption that no artist could resist a $90 million offer. By saying no, BTS drew a clear line in the sand, showing the entire entertainment industry that some issues are too critical to be compromised for profit, and that greenwashing is a trap they will never fall into. It was an incredibly brave, reflective decision that showed BTS's commitment to the future of the planet and the trust of the youth who look up to them, prioritizing environmental integrity over corporate convenience. And if you think this stand against a global oil giant was a massive statement, wait until you hear number 2, because it involves a brand that is a household name in the tech industry. A company that wanted to use BTS to launch a revolutionary but highly controversial service during the World Cup, leading to a clash of philosophies that had tech insiders talking for months. Stay right there, because we're getting to the top of the list. Number 2, Meta. The tech behemoth wanted to clone their digital souls, and BTS chose human connection over artificial intelligence. In the landscape of the mid-2020s, no technology has generated more hype, investment, and intense ethical debate than generative artificial intelligence. Tech companies are in a frantic arms race to integrate AI into every aspect of our lives, and Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and the Quest virtual reality headsets, has been leading the charge, desperate to find a breakthrough application that would make AI integration feel essential to the average consumer. For the 2026 World Cup, Meta proposed a revolutionary, highly ambitious project that they believed would redefine the future of celebrity engagement and fan interaction forever. They came to BTS with a massive, eye-watering proposal valued at approximately $95 million to launch the Meta BTS AI Companion experience during the tournament. The concept was straight out of a science fiction movie. Meta wanted to train their advanced large language models and voice synthesis technology on the writing styles, speaking patterns, facial expressions, and vocal tracks of all 7 BTS members. This would allow them to create highly realistic, interactive AI avatars of the group that fans could access through Instagram, WhatsApp, and VR headsets. During the World Cup, fans would be able to have real-time, text and voice conversations with these digital clones, which would react to match results, recommend World Cup content, send personalized messages, and even generate custom AI-written songs and digital artwork based on the user's input. To Meta's board of directors, this was the ultimate technological showcase, a project that would prove the power of generative AI to connect people on a deeply personal level. But when the proposal reached BTS, it immediately hit a wall of profound philosophical resistance. BTS's entire career, their global success, and their legendary bond with ARMY are built on one fundamental pillar: authentic human connection. From their early days uploading raw, unedited vlogs to their deeply personal lyrics about mental health, loneliness, and self-doubt, BTS has always shared their real, vulnerable selves with their audience. The members felt that offering fans a simulated, algorithmic copy of their personalities was fundamentally dishonest, a cheap imitation that would cheapen the genuine, hard-earned trust they had spent over a decade building with ARMY. There was also a massive concern about the ethical implications of AI for the creative community. The rise of generative AI has sparked intense anxiety among artists, songwriters, voice actors, and writers who fear that their work and likenesses will be used to train AI models that will eventually replace them. BTS, as passionate creators who have dedicated their lives to the craft of music, dance, and storytelling, recognize the threat this technology poses to the livelihoods of creators worldwide. Suga, who is a deeply respected producer and songwriter, was reportedly particularly vocal during their internal discussions, arguing that music and art must come from the human soul, from real experiences of pain, joy, and struggle, and that allowing an AI to clone their voices and creative outputs would set a dangerous precedent that devalues human artistry. They realized that by accepting this deal, they would be endorsing the unchecked expansion of generative AI in the creative industries, lending their massive influence to a technology that could put countless other artists out of work. The rejection was absolute, with BTS refusing to sign over the rights to their digital likenesses, voices, or personalities for AI training. This decision sent a massive shockwave through Silicon Valley and the entertainment industry, sparking a vital conversation about the boundaries of celebrity digital rights and the importance of protecting human creativity in the age of AI. By choosing human connection over artificial simulation, BTS proved that their souls are not for sale, not even for $95 million, solidifying their status as true defenders of art and authenticity. And now, we have finally reached the top of our list. The number one brand on this list is a company whose offer was so controversial, so deeply tied to a massive global conflict, that the decision to reject them wasn't just a business choice. It was a high-stakes decision that prevented BTS from being dragged into a geopolitical storm. Get ready, because number one is the most intense story on this list. Number 1, Mengniu Dairy, the geopolitical minefield that offered $100 million to turn BTS into political pawns. When we look at the intersection of global entertainment and international relations, the stakes are always incredibly high. But nothing prepared the industry for the massive geopolitical storm that brewed behind the scenes of the 2026 World Cup sponsorship negotiations. The brand sitting at the very top of our list is Mengniu Dairy, a colossal, state-linked Chinese dairy manufacturer that has been aggressively expanding its presence as one of FIFA's top-tier global sponsors. For the 2026 tournament, which is historically hosted across North America, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, Mengniu wanted to launch a marketing campaign of unprecedented proportions to establish itself as a household name in the West. To achieve this, they put together the largest financial offer BTS had ever received in their entire career, an absolutely mind-boggling package estimated by industry insiders to be worth between $100 and $110 million. The contract was massive, covering everything from global television commercials and digital interactive campaigns to having the members' faces printed on billions of product packages distributed across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. For any other entertainment act in the world, this would have been an instant, unquestioned yes. But for BTS, this offer wasn't just a business opportunity. It was a highly dangerous geopolitical minefield that threatened to destroy their reputation, alienate their global fan base, and drag them into an international conflict. To understand why this was such a high-stakes crisis, you have to understand the incredibly complex and fragile relationship between South Korea, China, and the United States. K-pop is a global industry, but it is highly vulnerable to international political disputes. The memory of the 2016 THAAD missile crisis is still a painful scar in the Korean entertainment world, when South Korea deployed a U.S. missile defense system. The Chinese government retaliated by placing an unofficial ban on all Korean cultural imports, canceling K-pop concerts, banning Korean actors from Chinese television, and boycotting Korean products, costing the industry billions of dollars overnight. Since then, relations between the two countries have remained highly sensitive, with rising cultural disputes over the origins of traditional Korean garments and food generating intense nationalistic internet wars between Chinese and South Korean netizens. At the same time, the relationship between the US and China has been characterized by intense trade wars, technological competition, and political scrutiny, with US politicians expressing deep suspicion of Chinese state-linked corporations operating on American soil. If BTS, who are officially appointed presidential envoys for South Korea and have stood at the White House alongside the US president to speak out against hate and advocate for Asian representation, agreed to become the face of a massive Chinese state-backed corporation during a World Cup hosted in the United States, they would have become a lightning rod for political controversy from all sides. In South Korea, the public would have reacted with intense fury, accusing the group of selling out their national identity to a Chinese state-linked giant for a paycheck, which could have permanently damaged their status as national heroes. In the United States, their association with a Chinese state-backed brand would have invited intense political scrutiny and potential media backlash, threatening their mainstream crossover success in the Western market. Furthermore, in China, any minor political misstatement, nationalistic internet controversy, or diplomatic dispute between Seoul and Beijing could have triggered an immediate public boycott of BTS, putting Hybe's business at extreme risk and turning the group into scapegoats in a nationalistic trade war. BTS and their management team realized that no amount of money, not even $110 million, was worth sacrificing their political neutrality, their safety, or their message of global unity. They chose to step away from the contract, refusing to allow their image and their platform to be weaponized as tools of corporate and political influence in a high-stakes geopolitical chess game. It was a deeply reflective, courageous decision that protected their global peace-building mission, showing the world that BTS operates on a level of diplomatic integrity that cannot be bought by any state or corporation. This historic series of rejections during the 2026 World Cup cycle reveals a profound truth about BTS. They have transitioned from mere pop stars into global cultural diplomats who prioritize their core values, their fans' well-being, and their personal integrity over astronomical financial gains. We have completed the full breakdown of all the points and summarized the key takeaways. The session is now officially closed. If you want to explore more pop culture documentary narratives or deep dive investigations in the future, just let me know.